Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for joining me. God bless each and every one of you. Let's just jump right in, folks. There's plenty of things to talk about. And a day after Kathy Hochul won the governorship in New York, Democratic voters in New York are now asking her to do something about the crime. And and don't refund my friends, no refunds over at the state of New York. This is the vows, hilariously as hilarious as it gets right now, that these Democratic voters who voted for Kathy Hochul now want Kathy Hochul to do something about crime. She can't do anything about crime. Now, you guys had your chance to vote for Lee Zeldin, who would have actually done something about the crime. Kathy Hochul courts are going to do anything. She went around weeks leading up to the election saying they would do is no crime in New York City, and there was just a made-up Republican smear tactic against her. And now they're out there say we did Kathy Hochul, we'll do something about credit. Guess what? Spoiler alert. She's not going to do anything about crime. Oh my gosh, these people are so dense. They continue to vote for their own demise. They must love the crime-ridden and filth-ridden New York City as it continues to spread throughout the state of New York. I would like to just say caveat, one thing with everything. On that lease, Ildon actually did have a lot of votes in the state of New York. He only lost by a few points in and a percentage-wise. Most of upstate New York is red. I mean, the maps and electoral. The electoral map there is red. It's mainly from the city and not even all of the cities, just a certain part of New York City that has so many people in it. They outweigh everything else in the state. Is terrible. It is really terrible. I do feel bad for many of the conservatives in the state of New York that you have to deal with people like Kathy Hochul, but let's go and take a look at this article. Well, it says who wants to tell them New Yorkers and right New Yorkers beg Hochul to do something about the soaring crime after the election. Newly elected in New York Governor Kathy Hochul, New Yorkers are urging her to do something about the soaring crime rate in New York City now. Yeah, right. The New York Post says fed up New Yorkers beg Kathy Hochul to get crime under control after her surprisingly close win in an uninspiring gubernatorial election, where she routinely downplayed concerns about rising crime in the Big Apple. People in New York complained about the high crime and crime in the subway. So why did they vote for local Steve Blocka at 70? Told Post. The Post what on Wednesday morning outside of the 72nd Street subway stop, and day after the Democrat edge out Republican Lee Zeldin for her first full term. Now that Hochul has won, her priority needs to do something about the crime in the subway. He added Hochul has the power to clean up subway. I just hope she does. Even local supporters are pleading with the incumbent Democrat who took office on August 21 or August 2021 to wise up and take action. I don't see that happening. I see New York continuing to spiral into a hellscape that it is, and again, feel bad for the conservatives in that state. But that New York City is an issue there. And now know how you saw that, and how you go about doing that. But Lee Zeldin did run a very effective campaign, and he did help a lot of congressional members get over the finish line there in the state of New York. So we'll see how it plays out, but truly I hope you guys will have a fair shot at this and be able to get rid of your guys' cells with these communists who are running your state. Are you a New Yorker? Sound off in the comments and let me know what's happening there. And then, this is some big news. We got to get a clearer picture as to what went on here. Continue our post-election analysis. One of the best ways to do that is take a look at the exit polls. Forbes just released a piece titled The Exit Polls A to Z, so I want to take a look at how the demographics split, and what issues were important to different voters. And let's try to have an honest conversation, and figure out exactly what happened here. Alright folks, to take a look at this piece right over here from Forbes, the 2022 Exit Polls A to Z to substantial undertakings by the pollsters give us insight into who voted, and how they voted, and why voters cast their votes the way that they did. The results below are from initial reports and they could change slightly. The NDP, the National Election Pool, made up of ABC, CBS, CNN and NBC and Edison Research, conducted an exit poll of early voters, and voters leaving the polls on Election Day. In addition, the consortium uses telephone, email and text surveys to reach by mail in early voters. And now in general, we know these mainstream leftist media outlets tend to be incredibly inaccurate when it comes to their forecasting of election results. But the exit polls are a little bit different because they're serving people who are actually voting, people who are walking out on Election Day, and people who voted by mail or during early voting days. And all they do is segment these people depending on where they stand on the political spectrum, race, gender identity, and you'll start to see a trend. So let's take a look at what happened. First off, the issue of abortion. We knew that it wasn't going to be a winning issue for Republicans. But of course, the common thought process based on all of the data that we had available was that inflation, the economy, and crime would be a more important issue to voters than abortion, and that in the end, it wouldn't really matter. Well, many people are arguing that the Dobbs decision might have had a bigger impact after all. Abortion. The NDP used a four-part question and found that 29% said that abortion should be, 30% said legal, and most 26% said illegal, and most in 10% illegal in all cases. In a P-vodcast, 63% that it should be illegal in almost all cases, and 36% illegal in most or all on the issue of abortion. And look, this is not my personal take. This is just objective fact. Democrats won, but I don't think it was as impactful as people are making it seem based on the data that we have here. The most important issues facing the country, 47% named the economy and jobs, 9% abortion, and separately climate change and immigration, and 8% crime. Abortion, climate change, immigration, and crime are essentially all tied to abortion being slightly higher. Did it have an impact that benefited Democrats? Yes. If we take a look at exit polling data with women, the gender gap was 22 points in election 2022. In the early NDP, it was 12 points in the AP Vote Cast preliminary voter surveys. Women were slightly more than half of all voters. Women voted 53% for Democrats, 45% for Republicans. Men voted 56% for Republicans and 42% for Democrats, basically in line with what you might expect, where the issue of abortion might have played more of a role in swinging the vote, as in general Zers. Gen Zers did show up to vote this time, born between 1997 and 2012. They're 10 to 25 years old, those between 18 to 24 are 7% of all voters, and they voted 61% for Democratic candidates and 36% for the GOP ones. So the Dobbs issue clearly got the youth activist vote to head to the polls. That was a factor, and the most astonishing thing that we're learning here is the slip with independents, Republicans, and Democrats. Both groups were overwhelmingly loyal to their parties. A slight plurality, 36% of voters, and the NDP said they were Republicans, followed by 33% who said that they were Democrats. Independents or something else was 31%. Independents voted narrowly for Democratic House candidates, 49 to 47%. In good GOP years, independents vote substantially for GOP candidates, which is exactly what we were predicting. Joe Biden's approval rating with independents has been in the 20s. In the gutter, independents support Republicans on all of the top major issues, but for some reason, apparently independents didn't want to give Republicans a red wave this time round. The question is it on the issue of abortion? Did all the Democrat fear-mongering on this issue cause hesitation with independent voters, who didn't want to see a federal abortion ban? It's honestly possible independent presidential approval rating and independent voter intentions when it comes to Congress in the Senate are two entirely different things. Maybe there's a good chunk of independent or moderate voters who just wanted to see an even party split across the Senate in the House. That's something to consider. That's going to make a lot of you guys unhappy, but what we're doing here is analyzing the numbers objectively, because what was expected, what should have happened, if this was a referendum on Joe Biden's leadership without other issues interfering. We should have seen a massive GOP surge in support with independents. Republicans didn't win over independents like they should have, and that must be analyzed. You got to get to the bottom of that without winning independents. You don't win elections. That is 100% facts. And what Democrats did during this election season was they took control of the message with the leaking of the Dobbs decision. Joe Biden's attack on ultra-mega extremism in his blood-red speech, the January 6 Insurrection Commission. Democrats have the power to do that. I mean, they control the media, and Republicans, of course, like usual, failed in their campaigning efforts. I mean, outside of Ron DeSantis, when's the last time you saw Republicans really going after emergency power abuse, lockdowns, the suspension of civil liberties? And if we go back to the exit polls, only 2% mentioned the pandemic as being their top issue, and, quote, pandemic voters voted for Democrats at 65 to 28%. There were so many winning issues that Republicans could have really appealed to independents on, and like usual, they let the Democratic establishment cause major distractions, Republicans played a reactive game, reacting to whatever the Democrats wanted to make the discussion about. And in that process, it seems as though the GOP failed to make a coherent, strong message or appeal to independent voters. I mean, in a moment like this, after everything that Democrats did, look at Tony Evers in Wisconsin, and Gretchen Whitmer, and Michigan after all of that independence possibly broke for Democrats. That's what Eldon, that's a GOP Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy failure. Here's the way that I look at it. Democrats had the issue of abortion, and they said it over and over again, every single day. They hammered on that issue, non-stop celebrities, the media, politicians over and over and over again, and they created momentum around that issue. It was a small amount of momentum. It wasn't the most important issue, but it was momentum. Nonetheless, Republicans had inflation, the economy, lockdowns, emergency power abuse, CRT education, of course lockdowns of school, so many winning issues, but they didn't hammer them home, at least not to the extent that they made enough noise for independents to pay attention, and feel motivated to go to the polls and cast their vote for Republicans. There was so much bickering and in-party fighting, and Republicans like Liz Cheney, like I mentioned earlier, literally campaigning for Democrats. Like usual, the GOP establishment assumed the fetal position, cowered, allowed Democrats to steer the national conversation, and these are the results. A lot of people are saying it's Donald Trump's fault. No, it's not, because if Donald Trump was involved in this election process, you know, damn well, that Republican messaging would be getting out there to independent voters. This is a failure on the GOP establishment. And maybe they did it on purpose so that they can now throw Donald Trump under a bus, because in the one place in Florida, where they actually ran a campaign on these issues, independents and even Democrats showed up and voted Republican, or switched their party registration to Republican. That's my take. My thought is, it's time to have a serious moment of reckoning, and that moment starts with one person, Mitch McConnell. Thank you very much. WWG1WGA. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button to watch the next episode.